Life is sorted, safe, compromised, limited. And then there's an exclamation mark there. Hello and welcome back to NibblePop. Getting so many requests from you to do this poem by Emily Dickinson called I'm Wife, I Have Finished That. I thought I should make this video. First, it's a very short poem. And second, since we have already done something on Dickinson, you already know a little bit about her. If you haven't watched the video which I have made on I Cannot Live With You yet, then for you, I'll just give you a very brief idea about Emily Dickinson. You see, Emily Dickinson was born in America in the 19th century. She more or less lived a very secluded life, wrote almost 1800 poems, but the poems were published after her death. She remained single and wrote vociferously on religious, social, as well as philosophical themes. Although she was not at all known to the poetry community when she was alive, now she is regarded as one of the forerunners of American poetry, and not just American poetry. She is considered to be a unique feminist voice speaking for the voicing of identity, speaking for the illumination of the woman's self, which she felt was an important thing when it came to shaping of identity. This poem, which we will be looking at, is a very peculiar poem, and it is one of the most misunderstood of her poems, I must say. So I want you to pay very close attention so that you can see how I see the poem and why I disagree with most interpretations that are found, because the interpretations which I have seen in other places, they don't match up with Emily Dickinson's idea of womanhood, her idea of freedom, her idea of identity. So let's start this close reading of the poem I'm Wife, I Have Finished That by Emily Dickinson. This is Monami Mukherjee. Welcome once again. The poem is very small. It has only 3 stanzas. Let's just read it. Let's give a very quick reading first. I'm wife, I finished that other state. I'm Czar. I'm woman now. It's safer so. How odd the girl's life looks behind this soft eclipse. I think that earth feels so to folks in heaven. Now, this being comfort, then that other kind was pain. But why compare? I'm wife. Stop there. Deceptively small. Emily Dickinson's poems are deceptively small. The poem structurally looks very unique, especially because she uses so many dashes. It's as if she is faltering. She is not having the kind of flow that she needs to have to write this poem. Or is she trying to tell us something which she cannot openly admit? Use of dash is a very significant marker of any poet's idea of what is writable and what has to be hidden. The excessive use of this punctuation mark somehow makes us look at this punctuation mark not just as a punctuation but as a statement itself. As if dash, which basically is like a gap in narration, becomes the narration in Emily Dickinson. So what is she actually trying to say here? We know that she was single. So of course, this is not autobiographical in any way. She's not actually talking about herself being married to someone. So when she says I'm wife, she is talking about the general woman who is married, or maybe she has somebody in her mind who belongs to her family who is married. So she is giving a generalized viewpoint here. So when she says I'm wife, she is not referring to herself, but she is referring to a woman who is married. And then she is trying to understand her situation. I'm wife, I have finished that. So the moment of getting married means the moment of leaving spinsterhood, maidenhood, all right? So I have finished that means I have finished a kind of living, a kind of life, that other state. Now, when you look at the first two words that she's using, you would notice that she's not saying that I'm married. She's saying I'm wife. Marriage is an incident in somebody's life. It's an event in somebody's life. But being a wife means an entire new identity. It is unusual for a man to say, I am husband, when he is introducing himself. So when this woman, this narrator figure in this poem, begins the poem saying, I'm wife, it means that this is the primary identification, or this is the primary element of her identity which she wants to project, or which is allowed in her to project. So instead of saying I'm a woman, she is saying I'm wife. And then she says, I have finished that. Now this word finished, it has two shades of meaning. On one hand, it might mean that she has completed her spinsterhood, she has completed her life as a single woman. The other dark shade of meaning that we have from this word finished is that she killed that part of herself. Like, I finished that part, that state in which I was something else. And there is a sense of darkness here, if you think it in that way. I finished that other state. Usually we associate state with condition, all right? So marriage involves not just a change in social status, but a change in your very state of being for a woman. This is in context of 19th century America. You might have some kind of development. Nowadays, you might not agree with what she's saying here, but you have to think about the time in which she wrote this poem. And then she says, I'm Czar, I'm woman now, it's safer so. This is where people make mistakes. I feel that the way this line is interpreted gives a false impression. Normally, it would appear that she's saying, I'm Czar. Czar is like a Russian king or a very important person. Okay, it comes from the Latin word Caesar. So is she trying to say that she's feeling very powerful right now? I am Czar. And then automatically you start to feel that this woman is feeling empowered in marriage, right? This is the way it is interpreted normally by multiple critics. And then she says, I am woman now, as if till now she was not a complete woman. Marriage has made her complete. Stay with me, because I'm going to look at these words in a very different way. What if the phrase, I am Czar, is the name of a condition or a state of being? I am Czar, I am powerful. The other state of being is I am wife. So now this woman has this state of being, I am wife. She has finished that state of being where she could tell, I am Czar. So I am Czar here is not a statement. It is not like at present she is like a Czar, but back then in that state she could tell that I am a Czar. Now why could she tell that? Because she felt powerful then. Now she has become a woman. Now she has reached a safe territory. If she wanted to talk about herself as a Czar now, she would use the expression Tsarina, which is like the female term for Tsar, that is a queen or a very powerful woman. But she is using the word Tsar, which is a very male word. So of course, if she is a wife now, she cannot be a Tsar now. Tsardom, or being a powerful man, means you have a lot of tension in your life, a lot of dangers to fight against. That state is finished now. Now she has entered the state which is called the state of being a woman, being a wife, and therefore it is a safe place now. So in the very first stanza, she is creating a duality, creating a binary here, a state of spinsterhood which has autonomy, which has a lot of power, and which has a lot of independence, and the state of being married, the state of being a wife, where she has to make this compromise with her independence. Why? Because she is gaining safety, social sanction. Let's move on to the next stanza now. How odd the girl's life looks behind this soft eclipse. So when she uses this word this, she is talking about her present condition. And she uses the word eclipse, which is not a very glorious thing. It might look beautiful. An eclipse is a very beautiful sight, but it involves a kind of reduction in glory, a kind of denial of light. Therefore, when she says that this is an eclipsed state, it means that being married means you are getting as if eclipsed by some more glorious object. It's as if you are becoming a secondary citizen. And then she uses this adjective soft. Soft because this eclipse, or this moment of being overshadowed by another person, this transition does not hurt, because society loves you, and then you feel like you are doing something right, right by religion, right by social norms, and then there are so many friends cheering you up, and it feels like it's a very soft thing. It's not something very hard on you, and therefore this process of being eclipsed is a welcoming feeling for the new bride. Nonetheless, it's an eclipse. And from behind that position, from that, you can say, subject position, she looks back at her previous life, the life of singlehood when she was a girl. And that looks very odd now, as if she cannot identify herself, like, was I the same person then? Now, when you look at this word behind, this also has double meanings, First, when you use the word behind, in a spatial sense, you might say that this man was behind that man, which means that they are standing one behind the other. So that is behind in terms of space. If you consider marriage as the process of being eclipsed, then she might say this to mean as if there was the sun before, set in glory, and then there is this eclipse, and she is standing behind it. Because from her perspective, girl's life, which is at the position of the sun, is behind it, all right? Positioned behind it. The other use of behind is when you use it in context of time. I left my past behind me. If you put that here, it makes more sense. How odd the girl's life looks behind this soft eclipse. So behind this moment of getting married, I was a girl, and now I look back at the time which lies behind today, that is in yesterday. And that looks odd. I cannot identify myself with that image. And then she feels as if she has moved through space. I think that earth feels so to folks in heaven now. It's as if she is in heaven, and that girl's life was in earth, and she's looking from heaven to earth behind an eclipse. And how does an earth look if you are standing and there is an an eclipse in between happening, a shadow is falling on the earth, you cannot see anything there properly. Apparently, it might mean that she is saying that she is in a heavenly state now, and then her spinster's life or maiden life before her marriage was earthly. It was not heavenly. Now she is in a heavenly state. So, hooray, she is very happy now. And this is like a promotional poem for marriage. Pink again. Dickinson was a very religious person too. And she understood that the problem with heaven is also the problem of monotony and the lack of autonomy. In heaven, you are directly under the command of God. Okay, you are under the command of God everywhere, but on earth at least, you have the chance of experimenting with, you can go and have a taste of any kind of sin. You can experiment with your choices, but in heaven, things are a bit limited. You have to be like an angel. And again, this word angel is very closely associated with the term wife, because wives were supposed to be the angel in the house. The angelic existence might look heavenly, but it also involves a very severe compromise with your choices. Now, Emily Dickinson is never seen as a devil's advocate as Milton was seen often by people, but I would rather say that she's not referring to heaven as a very delightful seat compared to earth. Earth offers more variety of existence. Earth offers more life, whereas heaven offers immortality at a high price. You cannot act against the will and permission of God there. So this simile which she makes here confuses us at first, but if you think about it as heaven or earth as metaphors, so there's a metaphor inside a simile. So you cannot take this simile on its face value. You have to dig deep to understand what she means by heaven and what she means by earth. By heaven, she means curbing of choices, curbing of autonomy, curbing of independence. On earth, you are independent. It's like Satan was saying in hell, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. She feels comforted by the idea of safety in heaven, or this heavenly house which she has received because she is married now. This being comfort, then that other kind, that means the other life which I have left behind me, was pain. So if you say this is comfort, then that was pain. So it's like she is making a supposition here. She is not telling you that I'm comfortable now, I was in pain then. She is saying if this is comfort, this being comfort, then that other kind was pain. So if this is not comfort, then I'm not sure if that was pain or not. But why compare? So right when she is trying to dig deeper into things, into reality of things, when she is scared that she might end up proving to us that she is not actually benefited by this eclipsing moment, she is stopping herself. And she says, but why compare? I'm wife, stop there. But why compare? This is one line which people do not even notice in this poem. This is one of the most underrated lines in Dickinson. People don't even give notes for it. But this is the most important line in the poem. But why compare? Who is asking whom? This narrator woman, of course this is a woman who is narrating this poem to us, she is talking to herself and she is asking herself some questions and then asking the reason for asking those questions. So what her marriage has done to her is that her marriage has made her believe that asking these questions, making these comparisons are immaterial. When you are in any kind of uncomfortable situation, and you complain, at least you're voicing out. There will be people who would tell you, don't complain. Why are you complaining? But when you yourself tell yourself that, why are you complaining? Why are you comparing? It means that society has completely manipulated your mind here. The line which follows, I'm wife, stop there. This is like a code which is put inside her mind to stop her thinking process whenever she feels that she is talking too much, she is asking too much things. And this is like a code which is put there in her mind which stops her from asking too many questions, from making too many observations, and this becomes like a red light for her. I'm wife, stop there. So the two states which she talks about, the state of being single and the state of being married as a woman, these two states have a peculiar relationship. You can move from one state to the other seamlessly, but you can never return to the first state from the second. And therefore, all she can do is she can stop asking questions. She can stop thinking about her present state because there is nothing she can do about it. So this extreme powerlessness to bring about any kind of change, that is very interesting. Now I want you to look at certain elements in the poem which will make this idea more strong, whether we are thinking along the straight lines or not. Identify the words which she puts in quotation marks. Wife, woman, again wife. So she does not use any quotation mark when she refers to the word Czar. So what is this quotation mark doing then? Is it limiting that in some way? It's as if she is pointing out this word to you, as if this word has become a defining thing for her identity. When she says girls, she doesn't use any quotation marks. So somehow we might feel that these two words, wife and woman, these words refer to a limited existence, something which you can put within quotes, something which you can display in front of others. You cannot define a girl's life. You cannot define a czar's position because they refer to a lot of independence. They correspond to a lot of freedom. So you cannot say this is a girl's life using quotes because there is no definite definition of that. But there is a definition of a wife's life. Similarly, a woman's life is defined. Who defines it? Society defines it. So this is basically, you can say, it addresses the dilemma of 19th century society and the way women were facing different kinds of atrocities. Interestingly, the poem which we are reading today, it was also called Apocalypse. Apocalypse means complete destruction. It's a biblical term and it refers to the doomsday, you can say, when the whole world will end. Why did she call this poem Apocalypse? That means I'm wife, I've finished that. Means I have reached a state where I have experienced an apocalyptic change. And after apocalypse, the Bible says that God will come, make his judgment, put you in heaven or in hell. So now her judgment is done, she is put in heaven, and there's a certain kind of irreversibility about it. She cannot come back to that state prior to apocalypse because everything is destroyed. The word apocalypse is not a happy one. It's not a pleasant one. And therefore, we are made to ask ourselves this question, whether this narrator is at all saying that she is a happy wife here in this poem. We have 3 quatrains here, right? 4 lines each, 3 stanzas. There's no rhyme scheme. Interestingly, I have seen Dickinson experimenting with her rhymes, her line endings. In this poem in particular, you can notice that she uses rhyme in the last two lines, and there is a half rhyme, you can say, or very close to rhyme, you can say, in the first two lines of the last stanza. This being comfort, then that other kind was pain. So then and pain, they are not rhyming words, but they are very closely rhymed with each other. The last two lines, on the other hand, they are rhyming, but why compare? I'm wife, stop there. So here you have a rhyming couplet. This is not a sonnet, this is a 12-line poem. But when we were reading Shakespeare's sonnets, we have seen that he uses rhyming couplet like at the end of his sonnets, and that creates a conclusion. So although this poem is not a sonnet, there is this concluding couplet which also gives us the idea that she is trying to make a conclusion here, as if now that she is a wife, every possibility of change ends here, stops here, concludes here. She does not end this poem with a dash. We have seen in the other poem which we have read that she uses dash at the end of the poem, keeps it open-ended. Here, there is no question of keeping things open-ended. Life is sorted, safe, compromised, limited. And then there's an exclamation mark there. Because no matter how limited your condition is, no matter how unfree you are, your mind will always keep asking questions, keep being shocked, surprised, and intrigued by your situation. So this narrator, who is trying to tell herself to stop talking, is only mimicking the society, making a mimicry of society. Society asks her to stop talking and thinking. So instead of putting a full stop there, we have an exclamation mark. We have two exclamation marks in the last line, as if being a wife and stopping somewhere, they are equal in implication. And wife, exclamation mark, stop there, exclamation mark. So they are parallel, or you can say they are equal in essence. Dickinson was not ever a wife to anyone, but she had seen women in her families. And while talking about the poem I Cannot Live With You, I had talked about Susan. And many critics have this feeling that Dickinson had a special feeling, almost romantic feeling, for Susan, who was her sister-in-law, married to her brother. We don't know when she wrote this, because Dickinson's poems were published after her death as a bunch. So we do not have any specifications about when she wrote which poem, what was happening in her life during the time. So we cannot pinpoint exactly to which woman in her family she is referring to, or she is gathering information about being a wife when she wrote this. But we can assume that her idea of marriage was shaped by the marriages she was seeing around her, and personally for her, marriage curbed choices for women, at least back then. We have progressed so much from that position now, but these voices were the first voices which started to really raise this complaint. So don't feel as if she is criticizing the girl's life because she uses the word odd. Odd means something which is like an anomaly, something which is like a deviation from norms. And when norms become restrictive, then deviations become heroic. So girls' life have that opportunity to break free, to be unique, to be different from what society expects a woman to behave in. So I hope you have liked this perspective which I have for this poem, because to understand Dickinson, we must understand one thing, that is, in 19th century America, feminism was not in vogue yet when she was writing. Yes, we have the first wave feminists, and I hope you have watched that video on feminism which I've made and published, but it was not a major movement yet. It was not the second wave yet. So these questions which were asked in these subtle ways, they were the first voices which were raised. And that makes Emily Dickinson so very special a person. I hope you have enjoyed today's class, and I really thank you for making this suggestion. I really enjoyed making this video for you. I will see you all very soon with a very new video. Till then, stay subscribed and stay happy. This is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Bye-bye.